Hello everyone, I am Afreen and welcome to today's lecture. Today my topic is going to be about health behavior modification with respect to self-observation and self-monitoring. My topic will be covering 12 major objectives which will improve your understanding of behavior modification, techniques of behavior modification, early intervention and factors responsible for poor health, individual and interpersonal models and theories, list of behavior change strategies, steps of mindful self-observation, 5-step practice for self-observation, difference between self-observation and meditation, concept of self-monitoring, and signs and types of self-monitoring, impact of self-monitoring, using self-monitoring to change behavior. So, let us start with the concept of behavior modification. Behavior modification is the process of changing patterns of human behavior over the long term using various motivational techniques, mainly negative and positive reinforcement. It can be a useful tool to encourage desirable behaviors in yourself, your children, or your employees. There are techniques that can help improve the effectiveness of behavior modification, and a therapist can help you determine the best strategies to use to achieve your desired change. Now, let us discuss the techniques of behavior modification. First technique is positive reinforcement and positive punishment. Positive and negative are like mathematical symbols in psychology. Taking something away is negative while adding something is positive. Positive reinforcement involves the addition of a stimulus that supports positive behavior. For instance, you could reward a pupil for good behavior by giving them a trophy for passing their test. On the other hand, positive punishment refers to an additional stimulus that lessens the likelihood that an undesirable behavior will occur. For instance, applying lemon juice to your fingernails as a stimulant may stop you from chewing your nails, which is an undesired behavior. Additionally, corporal punishment such as spanking is a type of positive punishment that is detrimental and ineffective for changing behavior. Second technique is negative reinforcement and negative punishment. Negative refers to the removal of a stimulus. When a stimulus is removed in order to encourage a desired behavior, negative reinforcement occurs. For instance, when a parent takes up a crying baby, the stimulus is eliminated, which is the desired behavior. As a result, parents are advised to pick up their crying babies more frequently. When a stimulus is removed to lessen the frequency of an undesirable behavior occurring, this is known as negative punishment. For instance, when a teenager stays out past their curfew, their cell phone, which is the stimulus, is taken, which is the undesired behavior. Third technique is extinction. The absence of a stimulus or reinforcer might cause a behavior to go extinct. You should avoid rewarding your child with a toy whenever they exhibit undesirable behavior. For instance, if they become accustomed to receiving one after every tantrum, which is the stimulus. If your child continually engages in the behavior, they will ultimately realize that it never results in the intended result and the behavior will probably go. Our fourth technique is shaping. Behaviors that are closer to the desired behavior are reinforced through shaping. For instance, there are various states while a toddler is learning to walk, like sitting up, crawling, standing, and walking. Parents can help a child learn to walk by encouraging them when they take new steps in this process. Fifth one is feeding. Feeding is the process of gradually shifting from one stimulus to another. For example, if a parent encourages their child to get good grades on report cards with a positive stimulus, such as rewarding money for good grades, they may eventually seek to find a more sustainable stimulus to maintain good academic performance. Feeding removes the old stimulus, for example, getting money in exchange for good grades, and replaces it with a new stimulus, such as satisfaction in learning new material. And our last technique is chaining. Behavior chains link individual behaviors to form a larger behavior. By breaking down a task into its simplest steps, a complex behavior becomes more consistently achievable. Now, moving forward to our third objective, which is early intervention and factors responsible for poor health. Behavior change refers to actions performed to modify people's routines and mindsets in order to prevent sickness. There are three behaviors like poor diet, little to no physical exercise, and smoking that cause four diseases, which are heart disease or stroke, diabetes, cancer, and pulmonary disease, which together cause 4 out of the 8 leading causes of death worldwide. For this reason, behavior modification or early intervention to mitigate the adverse impacts of these behaviors have attracted so much attention in public health interventions. Healthcare costs and other costs to society as a whole might be significantly lowered with effective intervention. A successful public health intervention should target as many socio-ecological levels as possible, like individual, interpersonal, community, or environment, in addition to the outcomes they produce. Generalizability is a problem for public health interventions, since what may be effective in one place might not be in another. Risky behaviors are linked to illnesses and infections. Examples include using tobacco products, drinking excessively, having several partners for sex, using drugs, driving carelessly, being overweight, or engaging in unprotected sex. In theory, people have influence over how they behave. Self-control and health-promoting behaviors can both benefit from behavior change. Exercise, weight management, preventative eating, dental care, and accident avoidance are a few risky behaviors that can be cut out. Health behavior change is the motivating, voluntary, and action-based process of giving up such health-compromising activities in favor of acquiring and maintaining health-enhancing behaviors. Risky behavior-related addiction may have a genetic component. Now we'll be talking about individual and interpersonal models and theories of behavior modification. A psychological model called the health belief model focuses on people's attitudes and beliefs in an effort to explain and predict their health-related behaviors based on the idea that a person's perception affects how successfully they change their behavior. Factors include self-efficacy, readiness to act, cues to action, and perceived susceptibility, severity, benefits, or barriers. Now we'll talk about theory of motive for protection. This theory explains how threat or coping assessment relates to how adaptive a person is, with a focus on comprehending the fair appeal that mediates behavior change. Now we'll talk about trans-theoretical model. In order to develop a nexus or maladaptive response to a health hazard, this theory requires stages of change. Factors include perceived severity, susceptibility, and effectiveness of response. Strong ideas of behavior change that have been turned into effective concepts and techniques for behavior adjustment. This theory brings together components of the biopsychosocial integrative model. Now we'll talk about theory of self-regulation. It embodies the idea that individuals can control their own behavior change journeys provided they have the tools and knowledge to do so. Aims to produce lasting benefits for certain circumstances and contexts. It primarily concentrates on preventing undesirable behaviors. Now we'll talk about relapse prevention model. It emphasizes the primary reasons as well as potential precursor behaviors or circumstances that contribute to or trigger relapse. It aims to identify high-risk situations and help people handle them. Indicators include stimuli control and self-efficacy. Now we'll talk about the behavioral learning theory. It seeks to comprehend the historical background of behavior development that results in particular outcomes. The social cognitive theory. This idea explains how social interaction and observation help people pick up new behaviors. It is based on the hypothesis that psychological factors influence the notion that environment and context play a role in behavior. Some of the factors are reinforcement, reciprocal determinism, observational learning, knowledge, behavioral competence, goal setting, and reinforcement. Now we'll talk about self-determination theory. It focuses on supporting inherent or natural tendencies in behavior and other participants' healthy and productive strategies to deal with those tendencies. Factors include autonomy, competence, and skills. Moving to another objective of my topic, which is list of behavior change strategies. First one is motivational interweaving. Second one is goal-oriented technique for eliciting and strengthening intrinsic motivation for change. Third one is behavioral contract. Fourth one is intent formation, making a commitment, being ready to change. Fifth one is knowledge. And sixth one is educational information through behavior consequences and benefits, getting help and acquisition of skills. The seventh one is behavioral capabilities. Eighth one is skill development through practice, modeling, imitation, reenacting, and rehearsing. The ninth one is choices. 10th one is building autonomy and intrinsic motivation through relevance, interests, and control. Another one is graded tasks. Next is planning ahead. 13th one is to anticipate barriers. And 14th one is problem solving. 15th one is self-reporting. And 16th is self-adjustment. And 18th is rewards. 19th one is stimulus control. And the last one is social support. Now, let me bring your attention to another objective, which is the concept of observation. Self-observation is a general term covering a variety of techniques linked to first-order descriptions of mental activity, such as introspection and first-person reporting has always been a feature of psychological research methods. It is still a crucial, albeit contentious technique that psychologists utilize in almost every branch of the profession. Self-observation has been used to gain access to information that is difficult to obtain through other methods in fields including phenomenology, memory study, psychological evaluation, and ethnography, among others. Self-report, retrospection, inner perception, and self-reflection are further names for introspective techniques. You are alone and just staying there. Self-observation is the process of looking oneself objectively, leaving judgmental thoughts and labels of good and bad at the door, and observing oneself fully in all of its minute movements and profound sentiments. First and foremost, it is a non-judgmental glance. As the eye moves inward on itself, it observes the internal flow of emotions and experiences. It records the flow of thoughts, noting when they are restricted and when they become trapped or recur. Now, let us discuss the difference between self-observation and other meditation techniques. In contrast to other forms of meditation, self-observation does not include asking for the thoughts to stop. We are not pushing them away, deflecting our attention from them, or ignoring them. We are inviting everything to surface while keeping a distance from the story that develops. We are saying there is a space for all of you here. It's a practice, no doubt about it. It truly is a paradox to do nothing but give everything you have. So simple, but depending on the circumstances in both our internal and external settings may occasionally be extremely difficult. Acceptance will come readily despite the non-judgmental nature of the practice. When you notice the wide variety of thoughts, sensations and occurrences that go on inside the body, there are so many things that the mind might connect to if it desires so. You might also learn what your mind usually concentrates on and what it tends to let float by during the process. You will find that this practice naturally creates a place where you can choose what you focus on, that which furthers your highest good. This practice has changed the interaction between your awareness and mind. The process of untangling can be compared to self-observation as meditation. As your knowledge of your internal workings grows, the knots gradually start to unravel. The amount of effort needed is not exceptionally high. You are the great witness by turning your inner vision inside and observing your own inner flowering. And it doesn't mean you lose all sense of the finer details that contribute to the wonder of this existence and become apathetic towards the world, going through it like a zombie. According to Jiddu Krishnamurti, this implies that the gap between perception and action is closing. As we get more adept at reading the patterns of the mind from our intuitive feelings, we develop a greater connection with our intuition. The ego is positioned as the servant of the feeling self, the heart, the intuitive mind, and the knowing when one turns moment by moment to examine oneself. The mind is a fantastic servant but a dreadful master, as Robin Sharma once stated. Now, let us talk about another objective, which is the mindful steps for self-observation. First one is creating space versus filling space. Being present, paying attention, and learning to be there for yourself, the first step is to learn to let go. Giving up drugs and addictive behaviors, including excessive social media use, is an excellent place to start. It is important to let go slowly at first. The same is true if you want to begin a structured sitting meditation practice or go on retreat. We start cleaning our schedules. To make place for something new, we need to let go of our usual practices. Second one is creating space for an inner life. Making time to look within has significance. It can be difficult to examine your inner life while surrounded by screens, news feeds, and social media feeds. By making space, you may be able to identify the true need or hunger that is driving your addictive or compulsive behavior. To start mending yourself, make room for yourself and pay attention to your inner processes. According to John Kabat-Zinn, which I quote, attention leads to connection, connection to regulation, regulation to order, and order to ease, as opposed to disease, or more colloquially to health. Third one is learning to observe. Self-observation is similar to bird watching. It is simple to understand that all you require is some room, calm and stillness. Even if you have never engaged in bird watching, you can observe yourself if you can observe a bird. Developing self-acceptance is a key component of mindfulness practice. Like when we watch birds, we observe without trying to affect anything. The explanations and solutions that support obsessive behaviors can be found through being present for oneself while paying attention, listening, watching, and observing our behaviors and attitudes. We pay attention to everyone and everything every day. As we watch, listen to television, and listen to others, we also take in our surroundings. We are skilled in giving. Despite the fact that we know how to, we simply are not accustomed to paying attention to ourselves. Paying attention to yourself is one of the most intriguing, audacious, compassionate, and loving things you can do. While concentrating on the good, you will also deal with the bad and ugly. Fourth one is giving attention. A wonderful place to start with attention is with listening. It takes silence to hear and comprehend what's happening inside of you. You get to know all the different parts of yourself this way, including the parts that want to quit, having compulsions, and the parts that don't. You will get to know the parts of yourself that strive as well as the ones who whine and shout that something is too difficult. Success depends heavily on paying attention to the parts of you that resist. A different path, a different life, more opportunities, better health, and better relationships can be things that certain portions of you are resisting. It may not always be simple to get the best things in life. Fifth one is being with resistance. The mindfulness approach to handling resistance does not require chastising, diverting, or punishing it. We create space for it to be. More details are revealed. We pay attention to it by gazing, observing, being with it, and listening, just like when we observe birds. In actuality, we come closer, quieter, and more gently to our resistance. Relapse or continued compulsive behavior may not always be related to a desire to stop. Most of us desire to halt. Few people choose to suffer on purpose. If we are asked if we want to cease feeling pain, the answer is usually a straightforward affirmative. The fundamental question isn't whether or not we want to quit, but rather why do we struggle for things like a new direction, a new life, greater possibilities, enhanced health and relationships, and genuine success. This can dig deeper into our unconscious processes and result in significant, long-lasting change in our lives. The exact things we crave may feel dangerous because they are unexplored and frightening. It is often the case that we must go alone on the road to a better life. Sixth one is braving a better life. Only you will take the inner promenade of introspective self-observation. Since no one else is around, being in your own inner wilderness should be a solitary experience. However, as soon as you begin to explore, you will realize that you are not alone. If you have some space, calm, and serenity, you can also notice the part of yourself that wants to help you. This is where self-help education starts. You can learn strategies to boost your own resistance. You too can communicate with one another. You may have the most interesting and enlightening conversation of your life. Yes, it is connected. Seventh is the inner laboratory. According to Kabat-Zinn's philosophy, when we practice mindfulness, we take control of our own inner laboratory and become the researchers. We can observe our internal formulas just like a good scientist. We can witness which attitudes, feelings, and actions lead to catastrophes and explosions. We have additional options to investigate new chemical and behavioral compounds that produce various results based on the observed data. The mindfulness method involves experimenting with our inner compounds as well as practicing exterior abstention. It is a method of self-observation and self-discovery which are essential for sustainable existence and self-healing. Now, let us talk about the eighth objective of this lecture, which is 5-step practice for self-observation. First one is to create a quiet, distraction-free area. This can happen at home, in a chair, or on a porch. Keeping it straightforward. A calm walk without any distractions will be effective if staying motionless feels like too much to begin with. Second one is simply be present to notice your thoughts, listen, feel, and pay attention. Examine your recent thoughts, feelings, and actions. Think of yourself like the bird you have been observing the previous few days. Third one is to compile data from your observation. Have you gained any new insights? Fourth one is, do you wish to do something with the insights? Is there anything that needs to be done? And lastly, decide for yourself whether the connection to your inner existence is worthwhile. Now, let us discuss the concept of self-monitoring. Self-monitoring is a personality attribute that entails the capacity to keep track of and control one's self-presentations, feelings, and actions in response to social contexts and circumstances. Being conscious of your actions and how they affect your surroundings is necessary for this. You can also change your behavior in reaction to environmental, situational, or social factors. Self-monitoring propensity increases the likelihood that a person will alter behavior to fit the circumstance. Low self-monitoring people have a propensity to act in line with their own inner wants and emotions. Now moving forward to another objective, which is signs and types of self-monitoring. Psychologist Mark Snyder developed the idea of self-monitoring in the 1970s. In order to assess how self-monitoring affected a person's behavior in various contexts, he also created a self-report scale. Among the indications of self-monitoring are using social situations to make comments in order to get attention or favor from others, putting on a performance to amuse others, finding it simple to imitate other people's behaviors, observing others in social situations to determine what to say or do, receiving advice from others about what to think, say, wear, or do, changing opinions to gain the favor of others, adopting various behaviors depending on the people or situation. Although individuals often engage in high or low self-monitoring, this might change based on the circumstance. During social circumstances or times of intense stress, for instance, certain people might pay closer attention to their behavior. When people are in environments where they feel more at ease, including at home or with friends and family, the level of self-monitoring may diminish. Let us discuss types of self-monitoring. Depending on the goal it pursues, self-monitoring can be broadly categorized into two major categories. First one is acquisitive. This kind of self-monitoring aims to win people's attention and approval. In order to fit in or to attract attention, prestige, or power, it entails analyzing how other people are reacting and changing one's behavior accordingly. Second one is protective. This kind of self-monitoring is done to shield the person from other people's judgment. People will keep an eye on the circumstances and reactions, then adjust their own behavior in a way that the group will find acceptable. Preventing embarrassment and rejection from others is the aim of this. Now we'll talk about uses of self-monitoring. Although self-monitoring is something that most people do intuitively, you may work on using it in various contexts. It might be helpful in the following situations, like modifying a certain habit, enhancing self-awareness, gaining a better understanding of other people, enhancing interpersonal skills, assessing how your actions affect a situation, learning how to perform in a competitive setting, and recognizing symptoms that may need treatment. For instance, Developing your self-monitoring skills can enable you to recognize aspects of your own behavior that you previously missed. You may discuss these behaviors with your doctor or therapist if they appear uncommon or are interfering with your life. Self-monitoring treatments may be useful for identifying and altering behavior. According to one study, self-monitoring can be used to encourage adults to spend less time sitting down. Self-monitoring can also help depressed individuals become more emotionally aware. Now, let us discuss our 11th objective, which is impact of self-monitoring. People might be impacted by self-monitoring in a number of different ways. Keeping an eye on oneself helps extroverted people engage with others and adjust to various social circumstances. Self-monitoring users are frequently well regarded and have excellent interpersonal skills. In other instances, people may self-regulate due to social anxiety. They pay close attention to how other people are acting as well as how they believe others may see them, since they find social situations uncomfortable. When dealing with others, people may find it difficult to unwind and be themselves due to their hypervigilance, which can also frequently make them feel more anxious. People with social anxiety who over-monitor their behavior in social situations have increased self-consciousness. It is significant to remember that the scenario may determine whether self-monitoring is beneficial or harmful. High self-monitors excel at adjusting to new circumstances and interacting with others. They could be perceived as fake in some situations, but it is also a social ability that can foster harmony among us people. People who do not regularly examine their behavior are less likely to alter it to fit in. In some circumstances, this might be viewed as aggressive or even antisocial. But in others, it could also be a sign of strong individualism and a lack of interest in following the crowd. Moving forward to the last objective, which is using self-monitoring to change behavior. According to research, developing self-awareness through self-monitoring is a crucial ability for starting and maintaining behavior change. There are steps you may take to recognize, gauge, and assess your own behaviors if you wish to employ self-monitoring to alter your behavior. You might decide to monitor and track these behaviors formally in some cases, but you might also choose to use a written checklist in other situations. To accomplish this, you ought to identify a target behavior, choose a specific behavior that you wish to track and modify as your target behavior. Self-monitoring activities include tracking your actions in relation to your health, emotions, level of exercise, diet, and social interactions. Decide how to keep track of behaviors. Herein, mentally noting these behaviors is one approach to raise awareness, but writing them down can also be helpful. This can entail keeping track of frequency, length, or intensity on a piece of paper or via a mobile app. Another is create a timetable. Although continuous self-monitoring is sometimes possible, it may be more practical to establish a plan where you check in with yourself and record your actions for that time period. This can entail recording it after a particular task or at regular intervals throughout the day. That brings us to the end of this topic. Thanks for watching.